So, good morning, everybody. For today, let's discuss the poem entitled The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. But before that, let's read the learning objective. So, at the end of the lesson, the learner will be able to first identify and interpret the major themes of loss, grief, and despair. Second, explain the symbolism of the raven. And we are your presenters for today. I am Perijin Rani together with Miss Salnea Rocha. And now let's talk about the author of the story. So the author is Edgar Allan Poe, and we have here the provided biography of the author. So Edgar Allan Poe was a Boston-born poet and author who briefly lived in Irvine. On the 19th of January, 1809, Edgar Allan Poe, poet and author, was born in Boston, Massachusetts. He was born as Edgar Poe to his father, David Poe, an actor, and Elizabeth Arnold Hopkins, an English-born actress. Unfortunately, Edgar and his two siblings were soon to be orphans, as both his parents died within a year of each other, his father in 1810 and his mother in 1811. Edgar and his younger sister Rosalie were with his mother at the time of her death. His father abandoned the family in 1810, and when Eliza died the following year due to pulmonary tuberculosis, Poe was taken in by John and Frances Allen of Richmond, Virginia. They never formally adopted him, but he lived with them while into young adulthood. But despite of all the challenges that Poe encountered in his life, Poe became a successful American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic who is best known for his poetry and short stories, particularly his tales involving mystery and the macabre. In January 1845, he published his poem The Raven to instant success. He is also widely regarded as one of the central figures of Romanticism and Gothic fiction in the United States and of early American literature. He is the first well-known American writer to earn a living by writing alone, which resulted in a financially difficult life and career. And also, other or additional information about the author Edgar Allan Poe: at the age of 24, he was married to his cousin Virginia Clem at the age when Virginia Clem was only 13 years old. And after the marriage, there's so much speculations, rumors spread about their marriage. Others speculate that their relationship was because of the manipulation of Edgar Allan Poe, but others believe that their relationship or their marriage was because of their pure and genuine love for each other, and that leaves a mystery about their relationship. And lastly, Edgar Allan Poe died on October 7, 1849, at Baltimore, Maryland, US, and his death was also leaves us in mystery because no one knows the reason of his death. So now, are you ready to hear the exciting story of the raven and delve into its dark depths, haunting beauty and enduring power? Of course, you are. But before that, let's have first a warm-up question for everybody. So we have prepared a question here for all of us. And the question goes this way: have you ever lost someone close to you, and how does that affect those who left behind? If so, how did it make you feel? And if not, how do you think you would feel? Of course, losing someone you love is one of the most painful experiences a person might go through. So it is normal if you feel different kinds of emotions. It is normal and natural if you feel sad, that deep sense of loss, grief, emptiness, and loneliness. And it is also normal if sometimes you feel the guilt to the things you did and you didn't do, or to the things you said or you didn't say. You might feel that you could have done something to save them. and you could have said to them how much they mean to you before they died, but you didn't. So it is important while the love of your life or your loved ones is still alive, you have to make them feel how much they mean to you, how you love them, and how important they are to you before it's too late. Because life is short and we don't know what the future holds, and we don't know or when or how they are going to die. And also, yes, losing someone you love is a painful experience, but also remember that you are not alone, and it is normal if you feel those kind of emotions. So don't try to battle them up, and always remember that there is time to heal and to move forward.
So now, let us watch the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, voiced by Alan Rickman.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortals ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter when, with many a flirt and flutter, In there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but, with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking I betook myself to linking, fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, ah, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign in parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
So in stanza 1, the speaker introduces the scene describing a moment late at night as he is reading a book. He is feeling drowsy and starts to doze off when he hears a soft knock which disrupts his solitude. So in stanza 2, the speaker expresses his confusion about the sound. He tries to reassure himself that it is just a visitor, perhaps an old friend, and he is curious, but also apprehensive about what it could be. So in stanza 3, the speaker gets up to investigate the noise. Feeling more awake now, he hopes it could be a visitor, a good distraction from his sorrow over the loss of Lenore, the speaker's beloved figure who sadly passed away. So in stanza number 4, upon opening the door, the speaker finds darkness outside. He is filled with a mix of curiosity and dread, confronting the emptiness that is now a part of his life after Lenore's death. So in stanza number 5, the speaker returns to his room feeling disturbed. He contemplates the loss of Lenore and how deeply it affects him. He's plunged back into his sorrow and starts to feel the weight of his loneliness. Suddenly, in stanza number 6, he hears the sound again. This time, it is more louder and more persistent. It's as if the darkness is taunting him, amplifying his feelings of grief and loss. He feels compelled to find the source. In stanza number 7, as he continues to dwell on his loss, the speaker becomes increasingly anxious. His imagination begins to run wild, imagining what might be waiting for him around the corner, mirroring his internal turmoil. In stanza number 8, finally, he re-enters his room and sees a mystical bird, a raven that seems to have entered the room from nowhere. The presence of the raven evokes both curiosity and fear, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. In stanza number 9, the speaker questions the raven, asking it from where it came from. He is bewildered by the bird's appearance, viewing it as an omen or a creature bearing some significant message about his grief. In stanza number 10, the raven is setting on the bust of Peleus Athena, and suddenly for the speaker, it becomes a symbol of wisdom and knowledge. The speaker is transfixed by its presence and the eerie aura surrounding it, enhancing the feeling of the speaker's despair. In stanza number 11, the speaker asks the raven its name, seeking some kind of connection or solace. The raven's response is simple but profound, asserting its dominance as it replies with the word nevermore, deepening the tension. In stanza number 12, the speaker begins to engage in a conversation with the raven, probing the bird for answers about his sorrow and the fate of Lenore. He is desperate for understanding and grapples with the idea of eternal loss. So in stanza number 13, each time the speaker asks a question about whether he will see Lenore again, the raven simply responds, nevermore. This refrain becomes increasingly haunting as it reflects his despair and hopelessness. In stanza number 14, the conversation escalates and the speaker begins to feel that the raven is mocking him. His emotions range from anger to desperation as he realizes that the bird is a constant reminder of his loss. In stanza number 15, the speaker's despair deepens as he recognizes that the raven will not leave. The notion that he is trapped in his sorrow becomes more potent, and he projects his hopelessness onto the raven. Lastly, in stanza number 16, the speaker resigns himself to insanity, realizing that he is haunted by the raven's presence. The final lines reflects his total despair as he accepts that he will forever be engulfed by his grief and that the raven will never depart. So the major themes of the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe are, of course, it tackles the themes of grief and loss, madness, memory and the past, as well as despair and hopelessness. Let's go back first to grief and loss. So the central theme of the poem The Raven is the profound sorrow experienced by the speaker after the death of his beloved Lenore. The speaker is overwhelmed by his longing for Lenore, and the raven serves as a reminder of his unending grief. The repetitious refrain of nevermore by the raven emphasizes the permanence of loss, leaving the speaker with unresolved emotions and a deep sense of despair. Let's go now to madness. As the poem progresses, the speaker's emotional instability manifests as a mental anguish. He oscillates between hope and despair, leading him closer to madness. The raven's repetitive response drives him into a frenzy, revealing how unresolved grief can warp one's mind and perception of reality. Then memory and the past. The poem addresses how memories of our deceased loved ones can torment the living. The speaker is unable to escape his thoughts of Lenore. Her memory still haunts him and reflects the struggle to reconcile the past with the present. The darkness and the melancholy of the poem suggest that memories can be both beautiful and painful. Next is despair and hopelessness. The narrative ultimately leads to a sense of hopelessness as the speaker realizes that his grief will never subside. The raven's finality encapsulates the hopelessness that accompanies loss. It serves as a reminder that some questions, particularly those about the afterlife and reunion with loved ones, remains unanswered. So all in all, the raven captures the essence of human emotion through the lens of grief and loss, exploring the complexities of mourning and the psychological effects it has on an individual. Poe's masterful use of rhythm, sound, repetition, and symbolism creates a haunting atmosphere that reflects the inescapable reality of suffering and the shadow it casts over life. The poem resonates with readers not only for its lyrical beauty, but also for its deep exploration of themes that are universal in the human experience. So for the guide questions, number 1, who is Lenore and what happened to her? So according to the poem, Lenore is the dearly beloved of the speaker whom sadly passed away, leaving the speaker alone. She might be his girlfriend or his wife. So number 2, what is the significance of the raven and what does it symbolizes in the poem? So for the speaker, the raven is an omen, maybe a bringer of a good news or bad news. So it might also come from a prophet according to the speaker, or a devil. But in the poem, the raven symbolizes darkness and death. So number 3, in the poem, what is the connection of grief and memory? So in the poem, the speaker experienced a profound sorrow after the death of Lenore. So the speaker is overwhelmed by his longing for Lenore, that no second of his life has passed away that he never thinks of her. So we never truly forgot someone whom we truly love, even after death. Because sometimes it is not the person that makes us remember them. Rather, it is what they made us feel when we are with them that makes it difficult for us to forget them. Maybe Lenore and the speaker shared so many happy memories or moments together. That is why, after her death, the speaker can't move on. So, we are your reporters for today. I am Zalnea A. Rocha together with Fairy Jean Morante. Thank you for listening.